We're getting fast and furious with some Muskehounds and sweaty with a Supernova. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Welcome to Offscreen. Yes, the sun has been shining and I'm feeling, well, hopefully not as sweaty as I was last week, but we are leading in. There is a reason why I've told you that. It's because our first movie on the show is
It's
sweat.
the power of the OnlyFans site. That's why you've told us. That's what it is. But yeah, sweat. our new side venture, OnlyVans. But no, sweat. Funnily enough, Sweat is actually written and directed by a man with the brilliant name, the writer-director with the greatest name I've ever heard, Magnus von Horn. Who also directed. Yeah, I know. He's a Swedish director. I know, like, how are you not like, evil villain Dr. Von Horn? But yeah, he directed The Hereafter a few years ago, and he's back with this. This is what I would describe as a Polish language film, right? Yeah. And I would describe this. Do you remember The Girlfriend Experience? The movie, not the series.
Oh, no, I remember the series.
Right, well, obviously the movie and the series are kind of the same thing, but the movie was like Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sasha Grey when trying to make her a sort of crossover star. She went from sort of porn to narrative cinema with that film and then wound up on Entourage and things. This is kind of like that, but instead of sex workers, it's Instagram influencers is the best way to describe this. So it's kind of like The Girlfriend Experience with a fitness instructor / social media influencer. So you've got this character whose name is Sylvia. She's played by Magdalena Kolesnik, I think her name is. She's absolutely brilliant. When she starts off, she's got this sort of wide-eyed Nomi Malone, Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirls kind of manic energy. You know, the kind that you only see with influencers.
Yeah, and that's a bit dangerous, like linking that to Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirl. I can see where this is going.
Right, well, that's the thing, because there were times in this where I'm thinking, is this going to go full Showgirls on me? And then it kind of just goes The Girlfriend Experience, which I'm equally cool with. She posts an Insta story in which she makes a sort of frank confession. She's been moved by having met one of her fans at the very beginning of the film, doing a public appearance at the beginning of the film. She does this sort of online confession that gets taken the wrong way. She loses potential ad spots and clients, and it starts her on this sort of this tumultuous point of mental health. At the same time, she's dealing with the way that she's viewed by her family and friends. She gets a stalker who starts periodically appearing outside of her building. She starts to feel that her life isn't so much her own anymore, that she isn't allowed to feel what she wants to feel because of this position that she occupies to, this imagined fan base, as we're shown. And it's really good. I mean, there's supposed to be a bit all over the place. Like, at times it doesn't quite seem to know what it wants its drama to particularly focus on, but Magnus von Horn, which is a name I'm going to say out loud forever, he directs the hell out of this. It looks gorgeous. It's got such a wonderful sense of scene. It's got such a wonderful sense of place. Every time you're in her apartment, it feels like a different world to, her mother's apartment, for instance. There is a wonderful frank starkness to the way that they stage these sort of behind-the-scenes green rooms and things like that. And her performance is absolutely tremendous. Like, her performance on its own, worth this movie. She's genuinely brilliant in this.
So do you think there's been a bit of a marketing fail with this? Because I've not heard a peep about this. And obviously there are films post-pandemic and stuff that we're kind of playing catch up on, and we've had, we've got big movies out this week like Fast 9 and stuff. So is this something that's hopefully will kind of build a bit of a cult following?
Well, this is a Curzon release, so this is actually going to be available to watch like on demand. You can watch this at home on Friday as well today, as well as seeing it in cinemas. I think it's Curzon at Home is their streaming like video on demand premium VOD service. Yeah. I think if this had been, to be honest with you, if this had been in English and on Netflix, it probably would have been the biggest thing on the planet. For 5 minutes. Like, you feel like if this had starred, I don't know, pick whichever ex-Disney Channel, actress
Zendaya.
is popular.
Zendaya, like.
Yeah, you stick a Debbie Ryan on this, and probably and it's on Netflix, and it'd be the biggest thing in the world for 5 minutes. I think the fact that it's got that language barrier, I think that is relatively easy to overcome in this, because I think the film is good enough that you can overcome it quite easily. But it's a really good movie. I can't recommend it highly enough. Right. But I know which one you want to talk about because you've got a personal connection to our next bridge. Why don't you tell us about the Supernova, Becks?
So Supernova is coming out. Well, it's out today actually, and it's starring Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci. It's about they play a gay couple who are a musician and a novelist, and they embark on a journey around the English countryside, and enjoying their relationship and coming to terms with the, I suppose, impending doom that is dementia, which is taking over one of them.
Can I ask you, did you want one? An autograph from him? Because I saw you looking at it, I wasn't sure if you wanted one.
Tuscan.
No, it's all right. He's very shy. Do you have a pen on you? All right. But if you want one, he'll sign one for you. He's shy, but he will. Either on a napkin, or if you have one of his piano albums, he'll...
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's very nice of you. Thank you.
How did you come to be this person?
I don't know. I don't even know why I do it, because it really isn't even satisfying anymore half the time, anyway.
So why do you do it?
Because of the other half.
I love Tucci in this movie. That's Stanley Tucci kind of having fun at the sort of at his partner's expense with the waitress of the roadside diner that they're in. But I love, and this is the thing, isn't it? Because the performances, you're in for great performances with these two, and they don't disappoint.
No, they don't. Absolutely not. And this is all about the performances. Like, it is a beautiful movie to look at, and it's beautifully written. It's actually very predictable in a way. Like, you know what's going to happen at the end of this. There's no sort of surprise.
Totally, yeah. But it's not that kind of film, is it, though?
No, it's not something that's got this big climax at the end of it or anything like that. It just goes along nicely and sort of tells this story.
Although, having said that, though, it does have one or two in context narrative surprises up its sleeve along the way. I think there's a sort of late second act emotional wallop that really killed me, and just shows you how you literally just need Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci alone in a room to just spin you gold. You don't need anything. I mean, is it Harry McQueen? This is your connection.
Yeah.
You know Harry McQueen.
So my mate is Harry McQueen. I went to university with him, studied the same course as him, and he's been grafting for a long time in the industry. Started off as an actor, did a few bits and bobs, then wrote his first movie Hinterland, which was well received. That
was the one, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's made this massive leap to doing Supernova, and all plaudits to him. He's done a fantastic job. I think it was filmed in quite a short space of time. I bumped into him, sort of midway through the pandemic, coincidentally, and he was just about to kind of take this to some of the festivals around Europe. And obviously, I think, the thing that really gets it for me is this is probably his moment as a director to really make an impact. And Corona has kind of, it takes the glamour out of what could be quite big opportunities. And
this has BAFTA written all over it, doesn't it?
100%.
It really does.
100%. And, there's I'm a bit worried about the timing in which this come out. Because I think there's a long way to go before we go to the next BAFTAs. And I think people have to remember this to get it come out. But it's been delayed, unfortunately. But nevertheless.
When did we see this? You and I saw this for the first time, if I remember. So that was at LFF back in November?
October time last year. Right. So then it had an initial release date, and then it's it's been held off. But I think it's a really accomplished piece of work for a young, exciting director in Harry. I think he's really accomplished. He's passionate about his writing. I know that for sure. And I think, I don't know how he got Stanley Tucci and Colin Firth. God knows how he did it, but he's done it. And also it's produced by... is it 42 years? Whoever the film, there was a film. Look, basically what I'm trying to say is it's great British stock behind this, okay, and that is kind of the BAFTA direction that it's going in. It is going to, if it's going to pick up anything, it may pick up something for Harry for best script, but
possibly.
I actually think it's going to be Stanley Tucci and Colin Firth that's going to lead the charge on this.
I think so. And incidentally, you said, you have no idea how he got Stanley Tucci. I'm just envisioning, that scene from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, how they get Genghis Khan into the phone booth. You just see the arm outstretched, holding a Twinkie out to him. Come on, Genghis. They did that with a Negroni. That's what it was. So just an arm outstretched with a freshly poured Negroni. Come on, Stan. Come on. This way.
When I did just review this on Talk Radio this yesterday morning, I did say, one of the big things is how Stanley Tucci has now become such a big sex symbol due to his amazing Instagramming about like making a cocktail and a Negroni.
Yeah.
And things like that.
The Tooch is a sexual god. Just for his cardigan and crisp white wine combos are chef's kiss out this world.
Yeah,
and you know
he's
what? So is his performance in this. I'm a very big fan of Supernova.
Yeah, me too. But listen, it's not all weepies and sweaty messes. When we come back, we've got something very fast and very furious for you.
With a lot more, with a lot more in the way of sweaty messes as well.
Welcome back to Off Screen. So we're keeping you in the cinema because we've got more fantastic offerings. It's so refreshing to be able to tell you that we're able to go into the cinemas again. It feels like it's been an age, doesn't it?
Well, you and I actually got to see one another in a cinema this week for the first time in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I think... I'm trying to remember what the last time you and I were in a screening room together was at Soho House.
Yeah.
And I think it was like the day before they announced the lockdown, when you specifically said to me, I'm getting a bit worried about the sound of this COVID thing. And I said, it'll blow over, don't we? It's just nothing. This happens.
Do you know what?
It'll just be like SARS again. Yeah, I remember.
I don't think
a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I don't think I told you this, but so we're very lucky that when we go to somewhere like Soho House, we get given like nice cups of tea and things like that. I wouldn't touch a thing. So as you were telling me, you were having a sip out of your cup of tea, and I was like, I ain't touching anything.
You were looking at me. Looking at me with those pinhole eyes.
Yeah, and like we had previously had this conversation, I think at Talk Radio or somewhere, where I'd basically said to you, they'd start putting hand sanitizers around, and you went each scenario, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep it. Like, what didn't know was
to
coming.
be alive.
I know.
Who knew? Speaking of things that I just couldn't have seen coming, right? This kind of dropped very quietly a few months ago, the announcement of our next film. And like back in 2016, I think it was, there was a rumor that BRB Internacional, who are this Spanish animation label who gave us such seminal classics as Around the World with Willy Fogg. Remember that from the 80s?
Yes.
And the similarly pitched Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds were going to try and spin their brands into films. Right. And they were going to start this with Dogtanian. It's now 5 years later, and that film is finally here. Now, Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds, you remember this from when you were a kid?
I do, and I loved it, and I can't remember if it was on the BBC or CITV or where it was.
I think, if memory serves, I think it might have been on IT. Oh, no, I think it might have been Channel 4, actually. The weird thing about it is, I remember thinking it was an American-made animated series. It wasn't. It was obviously, BRB Internacional is Spanish, and the animators on this are all Japanese. So it is a Spanish-produced, Japanese animated adaptation of Alexandre Dumas' The Three Musketeers with anthropomorphic dogs. Here, rebooted and rebranded for the 21st century with this sort of CBeebies level animation.
Oh, so I was thinking to myself, is this something that anyone needs? Probably not. But nostalgia-wise, it's quite exciting.
Right. That's what kills it, actually. The nostalgia kills this dead, because I revisited the original series. I watched a couple episodes this last week just to see, because I had to know, does it hold up? Am I rose tinting this? Is this the Ewok movies again? Yeah. You know, because you can go on Disney Plus and see those for yourself, but they're a train wreck and they have not aged well. Yes, there are two Ewok. If you didn't know there are two Ewok movies, there are two Ewok movies, okay? From the mid-80s, they want to be Willow, they are not. Okay, anyway, it's bizarre.
I remember loving them as a kid. I know you're saying they're a train wreck, but I remember loving the Ewok movies as a kid. So, well,
Dogtanian has held up surprisingly well.
Good.
Like it's quite a sharp. It doesn't pander, and it is a reminder that the mid-80s, the early to mid-80s, did see a genuine golden era of children's animation, and this would carry on all the way through to like the X-Men animated series in the early 90s, the formation of the Bruce Timm era, Batman the animated series, Superman, Justice League, the DCAU as it's now called. This is skewing a lot younger. And when I said that about the CBeebies level animation, this is CBeebies level storytelling as well.
Oh,
We're
nice.
talking about, it's also got a really weird continuity error carried over from the original 80s series as well, where for some reason Porthos and Athos are named the other way around. Can't figure that one out.
No, how weird.
No, they're the same characters, but they just have the wrong names. It's strange.
Well, when you say like CB, so a big thing that I find with kids' TV now, and obviously I'm not the target demographic as much as I am a child, but I found in the 80s and 90s, kids' TV shows were smart, they were sassy, and you could enjoy them as an adult. And I feel like this whole cotton wool culture has really dumbed stuff down for kids now.
It does feel like that. It feels like, on the one hand, it is a lot of very dumbed down dialogue, as you put. It's all like, on guard, smelly. It's that kind of, But at the same time, it's too overloaded with the actual plot of the Three Musketeers to sufficiently entertain someone of the age that you would need to be to enjoy this, which is effectively my nephew Henry's age. He's pushing 3.
Right.
He would be about the right age to enjoy the animation, but he'd be bored to tears. And to be honest with you, I was as well. I thought this was a significant waste of time. The animation was janky and rotten and just looked rubbish, and the movement doesn't work, and the characters are kind of daft. And it's like watching a CBeebies thing for about an hour and 25 minutes, and about as fun.
I would dig up the old series then instead.
They did remaster them for DVD about 10 years ago. So do check out Dogtanian and the Muskehounds. And they are adapting Willy Fogg next. So Around the World in 80 Days is getting this treatment in a couple of years. I hope they do it more justice than they did this.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's talk about the big release of the week.
Let's talk about justice for Han.
Yeah. This is the 9th movie of a 20-year-old franchise, which has not aged. I don't know, but it's definitely got more bonkers, right?
You say it hasn't aged. Every time they do one of these prequel-y flashback things and show you how Vin Diesel looked in the first movie, you now think, yeah, he aged. Yeah,
obviously. But I just think the concept doesn't change. And look, it's so funny. Let me tell you the synopsis of this. So Vin Diesel, or Dom, what's his surname?
Dominic Toretto.
Toretto.
The lead of the Fast and Furious series is Dominic Toretto, yeah.
Dominic Toretto, right? You can tell I'm not an avid fan of Fast and Furious.
I'm an obsessive.
He's basically living the quiet life now off the grid. But then this huge threat, which basically drags up all the issues from his past, brings itself to the forefront. And him and his crew basically get confronted by this hugely skilled assassin and driver as well. And that, of course, is someone who is as close as family.
So we're up against a master thief, assassin, high-performance driver. Who is he?
Jacob is Dom's brother.
Your whole life, you pushed yourself to be faster than Dom, smarter than Dom, stronger than Dom. But could you kill him? Because I'm ready if you are.
It's not their best movie. I mean, like I say, I'm a fanatic of this series. I would say, if you're going to be really objective about this, it is Furious 6 with the scale of the fate of the Furious. There are 2 things that I needed from this movie. Beyond the obvious, just give me some dumb explosions and car movies. And I want to hear Vin Diesel talk about family.
In abundance.
Yeah. The action sequences now have gone deranged. 3 things to highlight. Okay, first of all, I love that this series is whipping out after, and I'm going to correct you and say 10 movies and 9 chapters, because we have Hobbs and Shaw. Don't disconnect Hobbs and Shaw from. I know Vin Diesel would like that to not exist, but it exists. It's better than any of the movies in this franchise otherwise, and I can't wait for a sequel, which will hopefully have Keanu as the villain. But can you imagine? He's got to be the head of Etion, right? Like, it's got to be Keanu, surely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, going back to this. So I love that they have waited, for the 20th anniversary to then whip out, by the way, I've got a brother. By the way, he's also a wrestler. By the way, he's the wrestler who's the logical successor to Dwayne Johnson, who, by the way, happens to be my arch nemesis now. By the way, he's playing my little brother, and I'm never going to stop bringing that up. By the way, I'm smarter than him, I'm stronger than him, I'm faster than him. And by the way, this somehow never came up for 20 years. You've then got a sequence in which they bring back Han from the dead. All of these characters, the crew, or the family, as we're now calling them, literally stood around saying, I'm sorry, how are you alive? And I'm sat there thinking, he's not even the only guy in this room to have done this in the last decade. Like, one of the people asking this question has literally just mentioned having recently had her memory back from the time she was dead. But okay, let's not split hairs. And thirdly, what were they smoking on that one morning in Universal's corporate office block when they had the pitch meeting in which Chris Morgan came into the room, got asked the question, right, Fast 9, Chris, what you got? And he went, magnets. Magnets. I've got magnets.
Oh, you're so right. Look, yeah, I know. Look, okay, so this is what's really interesting. You're a massive fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. I have probably dipped in and out of this over the last 20 years, and I could not tell you what the last movie was like. I cannot tell, So I am coming into this thinking, as our lovely punters would, maybe going, oh, my friend's seen all of them, but I haven't. I'll go along anyway just to go and enjoy it. I had no idea the relationship. I had no idea about Han. I had no idea about...
the writers had no idea about Han, evidently.
No, but like Helen Mirren, Mr. Nobody, like all these stuff there's a lot of cameos that just pop up in here with no context unless you are a massive fan. And I think that's a bit of a shame, to be honest. I think
you're absolutely right. I do think, especially at this particular stage, the Fast and Furious franchise has become the franchise that everyone accuses the Marvel movies of being.
Yeah.
Like, people seem to have this weird perception of the Marvel movies as being this impenetrable fan thing with, 4,000 characters who all show up and you have to be really deeply rooted in the continuity. And yet they don't. That's Marvel's clever trick, is making you think, making it seem like that's the case. In actuality, it's not the case at all. Fast and Furious, however, is that. This is now at the stage where if you don't know that Helen Mirren is, Luke Evans and Vanessa Kirby and Jason Statham's mum, good luck, because they're not going to explain that to you, and they don't here. Incidentally, there is a mid-credit scene, and I had money on them setting up a piece of casting. There's a rumor floating around, and Helen Mirren has perpetuated this, that they want Michael Caine to be Big Daddy Shaw. Right. And I was told there's a mid-credit sequence, and there's going to be a cameo. I'm like, oh my god, it's going to be Michael Caine. It's going to be Michael Caine as like Grandad Shaw, isn't it? Helen Mirren's husband. Like, this is where this is going to end up, because he's the kind of the last driving icon left to get in this franchise. And it's not, but I'm just saying, I would have been there for it. I would have whooped and cheered if it had. I think the films, as a fan, I had a good time. It's another Fast and Furious movie, but it's Furious 6. It's exactly that caliber. As
a non-fan, it's 2.5 hours that will keep you entertained. It's literally goes out of this world, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And
is it more ridiculous than chasing a submarine and flinging torpedoes with your arms, though?
Look, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff that happens in it, but you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. It is very enjoyable. I looked around in that screening multiple times just to see everyone's reactions, because I was like, what am I watching?
I don't know if you saw this. We had a walkout. We actually had someone give up and be like, out, and walk out. And you have just mentioned the exact point at the film in which they did it as well, which we can't go into for spoiler reasons. But yeah, someone genuinely sat on the row in front of me, threw in the towel, went, I'm out, I'm done, and just left.
Wow. On that note,
yeah. Me, glued to my seat, waiting for more from the family. But put it this way, it is a film, genuinely, if you're not in it, if you're not in this for the ride, then you'll walk out. Welcome back to Off Screen, and we're taking you on to telly for the next segment. So let's talk about movies on Freeview for the next 7 days, Miss Perfect. Saturday, so tomorrow, Saturday the 26th of June, on Film 4. I've zoomed out all the way. Tell my eyesight's getting worse here. Film 4 at 10 past 11 in the evening. A movie that I adore. I'm not sure where you sit on this one offhand. Upgrade. Do you remember Upgrade?
No, do you know what, Van? I'm going to say this week it's very much led by you for that Freeview picks. Yeah.
I only swapped out 2 as well.
I think I may have picked stuff with you in mind, because this week was a little, not saying it's slim pickings this week, but there's been a lot of stuff out that we've already covered recently. So
yeah. Well, it's not like that. There's only so many movies in the Freeview rotation, aren't there? So it's very nice when they get some new additions. But Upgrade is definitely not one of the new additions. Upgrade, we've talked about a couple of times. So this is Lee Whannell's Nano RoboCop, if you can imagine such a thing. Stars Logan Marshall Green as the future man who sets out to find his wife's killer when he is paralyzed in the car accident, which is actually a masked assassination attempt on her. And he is given an experimental nanotechnology treatment which implants a sort of AI in his head called STEM. So STEM, on the one hand, is allowing him to walk and move again, but if he allows STEM will take over his bodily functions entirely and do the things that he can't, namely beating the ever-loving crap out of a room full of, heavily armed guys to get the information he needs to find his wife's killer. It's very slick. It's very cool. It is what you would imagine if the Saw guys did RoboCop with nanotechnology. Yeah,
I think I've seen the trailer for this. I don't think I've seen the actual film, but, Logan Marshall Green, who plays Grey Trace. Is that Grey Trace in this? Yeah.
Grey Trace. Yeah, the brilliantly named Grey Trace. It's that kind of movie, Bex, where you have characters named. It's like John Matrix. Arnold Schwarzenegger is John Matrix.
Yeah. I think this does look slick. It does look like, if you're into your sci-fi and stuff, I think this is a good one, especially for a Saturday night as well.
Actually, not even particularly sci-fi, because the way it's very clever in the way that it does the sort of sci-fi angle. It's sci-fi in the way that Face Off is sci-fi.
Right. Gotcha.
You know what I mean? You look at Face Off more as a sort of action revenge movie.
Yeah.
This is very much the same thing, an action revenge thriller. You feel like, because STEM could be anything. There's a version of this where STEM is a magical curse, or there's a version of this where he literally is RoboCop. That movie is actually called RoboCop, now that I think about it. But anyway, Upgrade is very good, and it's on Film 4 on Saturday night at 10 past 11. Let's go to Sunday then and talk about Disobedience. Did you get to see Disobedience?
No, I didn't. So this is on Film 4 at 11:15 p.m, another late one for you. Disobedience. Now, I'm frantically looking this stuff up just to see if it does trigger that I have watched it. But from the title, I'm not so sure.
I'm not sure what we were talking about, and this came up in relation to, I think there was a movie with a similar plot.
Did we talk about this and saying, we talked about this in relation to Ammonite, and said,
yes, we talked about this in relation to Ammonite. Thank you, that was it. And then a week later, it turns up on the Freeview because I'm talking about Disobedience. So Disobedience is the forbidden love story drama set within the North London Hasidic Jewish community, and starring Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, who it turns out can actually pull off a British accent, would you believe? Ooh. And just makes me love her more, good old Rachel McAdams. So it is the romance between the Rachels, as it were. And you've got Rachel Weisz's character, who has left the community, like a decade or so earlier, has gone to America and become a photographer in New York. And she's achieved some sort of mid-level acclaim. She returns home following, I think it's the death of her father, who's a very, very traditional man, obviously, and is brought face to face with, it turns out, the love of her life, Rachel McAdams, who, their forbidden romance, it transpires, is of course the reason for her departure several years earlier. But McAdams has now married, I think it's Rachel Weisz's cousin. So they are now literally family, making the situation even worse.
We saw your photos in a magazine.
Mm. Yeah, it was the pictures of the twins that you showed us.
But they called you Ronnie Curtis.
That's my professional name.
What was wrong with your real name? Krushka, you should be proud of it.
Artists change their names sometimes, don't they, Moisha?
That's right, Fru.
Yeah.
Well...
Women change their names every day.
They take their husbands' names and their own history is gone. Don't they?
What are you talking about, gone? It's not gone.
Yes. They do.
I thought this was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see this. I think if you're going to do a lesbian drama, don't do it like Ammonite. Do it like this. Is probably the way to look at it.
No difference between this and Ammonite. This has dialogue in it. This is not just staring. This is not just staring as we dust pebbles.
Yeah, I've got you with that. So that's Disobedience. That's on film for 11:15 p.m. on Sunday. Moving on to Monday, Pacific Heights is on the Horror Channel at 10:45 p.m. Now, I didn't think I'd seen this, but I have, and I watched this years ago. So this is about a couple who basically move in and renovate a house, and they've got a weird neighbour. Is Michael Keaton the weird neighbour? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's Michael Keaton, and he's like their tenant, isn't he? Because the house that they've got here, they're turning into flats, and I think he's the tenant who moves in on. He's moving on the ground floor, I think, because for plot reasons, it has to be, I think, the ground floor.
Yeah. Do you know what? This has brought back flashback memories of me. I know exactly what TV I watched this on. I think it happened to be on something like BBC Two or something, like when I was a kid, and I just stumbled across it. And then
this is legitimately, this is so 1990 that its leads are played by Matthew Modine and Melanie Griffith. That's how 1990 this was.
Yeah. And do you know what's just, as I looked it up, what has just sparked my sort of remembrance of it is that the shot of the house. I totally remember that house.
Because the house that they're doing out, and it's kind of like Hand That Rocks the Cradle in this way. One of those gorgeous, 19th century San Francisco 3-story homes with the towers and everything that you never see anywhere else in the world.
But in a movie.
That seem to exist within the realms of San Francisco in movies,
Yeah, like this is Doubtfire and stuff as well. It's all
like the house from Charmed kind of thing.
Yeah, those things that obviously they can all afford to live in, and when in reality they cost millions.
God.
That's it. But yeah, Disobedience, a great thriller is what I remember.
Oh, no, Disobedience is a great drama.
Sorry, drama.
Pacific Heights is a great thriller.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
but Michael Keaton in unhinged villain mode. He's so much fun.
Do you know what? It's unhinged villain mode. I love seeing Michael Keaton do stuff like that. And then Michael Douglas in things like, is it Downfall? The one where he's like...
Oh, Falling Down.
Falling Down. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Sorry.
Downfall's the Hitler one.
Oh, right. No, Falling Down, that one. It's when they just go rogue and a bit like bonkers in it. I think it works really well. So yeah, Pacific Heights, if you haven't seen it from the 90s, drag it up again, because I'm definitely going to do that. That's a really, really good one to watch. Let's move on. We have on Tuesday, I brought up a horror on this. I haven't seen this in quite a long time as well. Insidious is on 5-star at 11:05 p.m. Now, this is kind of born a bit of a franchise within itself. And I remember this has got Patrick Wilson in it as well, so who we know from The Conjuring.
Because you had this and Sinister around the same time. I think this one's Patrick Wilson and Sinister,
Rose
I
Byrne,
think, is
isn't
Ethan Hawke. Oh, is this the Rose Byrne one? Because that was going to be my next question. I don't remember which one has Rose Byrne as the I think there are... The most recent one was Insidious: The Last Key, and I think that's the 4th or 5th one.
You know what? It's interesting that this has got Rose Byrne in it, because she's so much better at comedy. And I did just read an interview with her with regards to, she knows that she's just like, she should just really go down the comedy route because she's so good at it. So it's interesting to see her do a horror. But basically, in a nutshell, what this is all about is a family looks to prevent evil spirits from trapping their child who's in like a coma in this world called The Further.
It's kind of like The Veil, kind of the, once you see through the cloak into the alternate thing. This is the one with the sort of Darth Maul looking evil, nasty thing.
Yeah. So I remember it being good enough for me to go, oh yeah, I remember this. And obviously good enough to spawn a franchise.
Good enough to get like 9 sequels.
Yeah, there we go. But this is the original, the OG on this one is Insidious. So that's on 5-star at 11:05 p.m. Okay, Van, Wednesday, ITV4, 11:10 p.m. What have we got?
Okay, so this is Space Cows. I'm going to pick up the pace and breeze through the next 3 days as we're pushed for time. So Space Cowboys, which I think was around the time, was it Scott Glenn went into space or something? But the old guy, the old astronaut, the oldest man had gone into space. So they came out with this movie, which features the likes of Donald Sutherland, James Garner, Clint Eastwood, and Tommy Lee Jones as the 4 old-timers from the 60s who are brought back by NASA and sent into space as geriatric men to, diffuse a satellite from that era that's otherwise going to fall to Earth and kill a bunch of people. And it's old men horsing around and having fun, but there's old rivalries and there's old bromances and friendships and things. It's a very fun movie. It's from 21 years ago now. I think it was very early, the year 2000. Good fun. Thursday the 1st, we talked about this one a lot, so we can breeze this one quite quickly as well. Film 4, 9 p.m, The Equalizer. It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, Denzel, innit?
Yeah. Basically him doing Man on Fire again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And do you know what? I think we compared something else to sort of a scene in The Equalizer as well. But
Nobody. We compared Nobody to The Equalizer.
Yes. That's it. Nobody, which is now getting a sequel, which is really exciting.
Is it going to be still Nobody, or is it going to be Somebody? That's the question.
I hope it's going to be called Somebody.
Paul Ross pitched Somebody and then a threequel called Everybody.
Yes, he's pitched that to me as well. Brilliant. So The Equalizer, film 4, 9 p.m. And then rounding off your week, we've got Night School on Channel 4 at 11:05 p.m. This must be a big favourite of yours.
Well, actually, I quite like this one. It's not one of Kevin Hart's standout hits, but it's a good time, and it's one of the few films I actually like Tiffany Haddish in. I find her really overrated and kind of shrill and annoying.
I'm with you on that, actually.
Yeah, like I feel like that was one performance in, is it Girls' Night or Girls' Trip? I think it's that one role. She just looked out and she got like a role that evidently was like Zach Galifianakis in the Hangover style breakout thing. But as Zach Galifianakis confirmed, some of these breakout stars are pretty much a one and done.
Yeah.
And Tiffany Haddish kind of got lucky with Night School. She actually got a role that I think worked for her, but it does seem to be the exception rather than the rule. It's Kevin Hart as the guy who has to go back to high school, well, at night.
My suspicions were right, and you, my friend, are dyslexic.
That's what I got.
I knew it. Now that you say it, it makes sense. You also have a processing disorder.
I got a touch of prostate cancer. She didn't touch my ass one time.
I said processing disorder.
I'm not processing it. I didn't process none of that.
You are just one big, beautiful, mixed drink of learning disabilities.
Okay. So how do we fix it? Let's talk solution.
Well, there's no cure for what you have. Oh, my God. I got learning herpes?
If you ever thought from our last week's review that Kevin Hart being sincere is not your cup of tea, then just make sure you go back and watch Night School, because he's back to his wham best.
He does have that. He does go like, he goes almost Chris Tucker, isn't it? It's almost Chris Tucker pitch up.
Yeah, definitely. But there you go. That's all your roundup for what's on Freeview this week. So you've got your cinema, you've got your couch, and now we're going to come back just after this with your DVD, Blu-rays, and streaming.
Welcome back for one last ride off screen, and we're starting with the DVD and Blu-ray aisle, and we have this year's Best Picture coming out on shiny disc format this week, Bex. Best Picture.
It's had its kind of run. It was like first, so you could see it on Disney Plus, and then if you don't like that, you can go into the cinema and see it on the big screen. And if you don't like that, now you can see it on DVD and Blu-ray. I mean, plug, shall we say, for Nomadland?
You know what it is? Someone just really wanted to print those DVD sleeves with the new winner of Best Picture, on a banner at the top of it is what it is. But of course, this one, Best Picture, won Best Actress, and I think it got beaten to Best Adapted Screenplay by The Father, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did.
Quite notably.
Oh, Best Director, though, for Chloe Zhao.
Oh, he did get Best Director for Chloe Zhao as well. Future Marvel director Chloe Zhao. Well, not even future, current Marvel director Chloe Zhao, because Eternals is this summer. So, so this is the adaptation of the novel that stars, I almost said Florence Pugh there, and Marvel on the brain, obviously. And there's rarely a moment I'm not thinking of Florence Pugh, obviously, clearly. But have you seen the Black Widow promo stuff that she keeps putting out? I love this woman.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Sense of humor. Yeah. I love it. She's goofy. I just adore her. Anyway, Frances McDormand, however, is the star of Nomadland, not Florence Pugh. Be a very, very different film and a very, very different Instagram account. Anyway, Frances McDormand is the nomad of the title, who lives in her van, who takes sort of seasonal gig economy work. For instance, at the point that we are observing her in the movies during that period, the holiday season, when nomad culture, the sort of van-based nomad culture, take temp jobs for the season at Amazon, of all places, and use the occasion to sort of pay off, accrued debts and make repairs, etc. As you'll hear in our clip.
Okay, what we've got is parts and labor, $2,300 and tax.
I just looked up the value on your van. With that high a mileage, you're looking about $5,000 at the most.
I'd probably recommend taking that money and putting it towards a different vehicle.
I can't do that. I can't do that, see, all right. I spent a lot of time and money building the Inside Out, and a lot of people don't understand the value of that, but it's not something like we can... I live in there. It's my home.
I did like Nomadland. It does play out like a documentary. I do feel this is an art house film that is not going to be for everyone, and it's certainly a bit of a challenge sometimes when I review it on different outlets. The kind of like, oh, but am I really going to like this? Does it go anywhere? Does it do anything? And the answer is no. It's just a really beautiful film, and you've got to enjoy it for what it is. So if you want to sit there and watch it in all its glory on DVD and Blu-ray, you can do now. But I would have advised that you go and see it on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, it was the obvious sort of contender for best. The obvious sort of winner is going to be the obvious winner this year for best picture. But I think after, for me, Nomadland after Parasite winning, just Nomadland feels like such a cop out. It's like, okay, here we are, we're back to normal, business as usual. Okay, cool. Next year we'll have another Driving Miss Daisy or Green Book, and lather, rinse, repeat. The cycle begins anew. Anyway, on to new actual technology and talk about streaming, which, is the actual technology which has given this industry a shake-up for the first time in decades. And I will say, actually, it has been incredibly impressive to watch over the past year as different studios have taken different avenues with, release windows and what they will consider streamable and what they won't. But coming this next Wednesday on Netflix, for instance, is an animated feature film that I can't quite imagine a studio making. Then again, Sony did make Sausage Party, so America the Motion Picture would be kind of comparable, I suppose. Have you seen the ads for this?
No, I haven't, but I have seen Sausage Party.
This looks like the same kind of thing, only this is more traditional, like 2D animation. This is like hand-drawn animation. And it's like a far-fetched satirical, almost like a satirical, just an outright parody of an imagined alternate history in which, the founding of America is played out by George Washington as this big Schwarzenegger-style action hero with two big machine guns, single-handedly taking on the British and, like, founding America.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, and he's voiced by Channing Tatum. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's one of those. You're like, okay, I'm game for this. This sounds like it'd be a laugh.
I'm game, but I'm nervous because I don't know. It's either going to fly and everyone's going to be like, this is the next Team America or something like that. Or
it has a very Team America kind of pitch to it, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But same day on Amazon Prime, though, is The Wedding Guest. A very different audience entirely for this one. This was the Dev Patel one. Do you remember this? We reviewed it.
Yeah, I think I can.
He was the guy who went to India on his own. He's it's dialogue free for the longest time. And it's him on his own in India, goes away. He's been sent by a young girl's father to basically abduct her and free her from an arranged marriage.
Right. I think we may have reviewed it, but I don't think I've seen this. But
it was a good little thriller. It was a tidy little dramatic thriller, but it was very gritty. It had a lot of dramatic grit to it,
Hey, look, anything with Dev Patel, I think is always.
Yeah, he's great in it.
Yeah,
I think you'd like him. You'd really like this, to be honest, because it's a real showcase for him. Although, comes a day before. Right, you tell me then. Is it E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Jaws? What is the definitive Spielberg movie in your head, Bex?
Depends what age I'm at, right? So
gun to your head, you can pick one movie: E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Jaws. Which is the Spielberg movie you take?
It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You think Raiders of the Lost Ark? That's fair. Do you know what? I'll probably pick Raiders as well, but. Yeah. That Raiders is not coming to Netflix on Thursday. E.T. is. And I believe great movies have just gotten the rights to Jurassic Park. So that's on Freeview. It's in constant rotation at the moment. But E.T., the extraterrestrial. Go on.
Yeah, just thinking about that. Those 3 movies, right? You think about it from an age range. E.T. as a kid, you can watch that and you'll love it, right?
Yep.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's kind of like, even if you're a little bit too young to watch it, you still can.
It's tween, isn't it?
It's tween. There ain't no way you're watching Jaws until you're an 18. Okay? You, whatever age you're at, you'll have a Spielberg that is definitive to you. So that's why I was
we're saying that, by the way. We're saying that. And this is we're not factoring in Jurassic Park either.
Yeah, I know.
You know, which kind of nullifies all of those, if we're being honest. But but no. So E.T., which is I think the first Spielberg movie I ever saw.
Have they remastered it or anything?
It has been remastered in 4K. It's been reissued. I think it's going to be the 40th anniversary of E.T. is next year.
Okay.
So yeah, which God. Means I'll be 39 in. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's on Thursday the 1st on Netflix. But on Friday the 2nd on Netflix is a movie I am all about.
Well, we've already sort of touched upon it a little bit, and you know what? We kicked off the show, well, the second half of the start of the show with talking about it. It's Big Daddy, which is Fast 9, the Fast Saga, and we're ending the show by talking about its offspring, which is Hobbs and Shaw. Which you just told me off air you've watched 20 times.
I must have seen it 20 odd times. I absolutely adore Hobbs and Shaw because in the same way that the original Fast and Furious is a thinly guised remake of a rip-off of Point Break. I think it's the Scott Mendelsohn principle: rip off, don't remake. Yeah. And they did that with Fast and Furious, and it is proof that you should rip things off rather than remake them, because you can accidentally create gold, as the Fast and Furious did. But in the same way that was Point Break, this is Tango and Cash. That's exactly what this is. And this is Dwayne Johnson's the lawman, Jason Statham's the spy, and they don't like each other and they're going to team up to save the world anyway.
You want to tell me just what in the fresh turkey hell we're dealing with here?
Long story. It's a ghost. It's supposed to be dead. 8 years ago, I put a bullet through his brain.
Great. So we're being chased by the Terminator.
I don't think he's gonna make it.
Well, I don't think you can see over the steering wheel.
Buckle up, fat boy. I'm gonna save your life again.
I love this film because I didn't know what to expect when I went to watch it. And I have to say, when you think it's going to finish, it just keeps on going. And that is the beauty of it. You're like, oh my God, now we're in like Samoa or somewhere. And it's like, where are we now? Like, what's going on? It's bonkers. And I think, Jason Statham's brilliant in this. The Rock is brilliant in this. It's Vanessa Kirby's in this, isn't she?
Vanessa Kirby is little sister Shaw. You've also got, I think, Rob Delaney and Ryan Reynolds turn up as the respective sides' sort of government handlers. There's a cameo from Kevin Hart in there as well, and a supporting role for Isa Gonzalez, and of course, the true star of Hobbs and Shaw, Idris Elba as Black Superman Brixton, who is he's a nano-powered super soldier is the best way to describe him, with like a telekinetically controlled, like techno-kinetically I think would be the term, controlled motorcycle. So it's like a self-driving motorcycle that responds to his thoughts. It's deranged. It is one of the stupidest movies ever conceived by man, and I love it.
There we go. And you can love it too when it's out on Netflix next Friday.
Do you know what? Do you know how much I love Hobbs and Shaw? I love it so much that I'm willing to overlook the fact that at one point it's got a car chase. In fact, literally the car chase from our clip, in which Idris Elba is the chaser, over which his own song plays. That's how much I love it. I'm going to overlook that happens.
Well, on that note, we're going to leave you on a high. In huge anticipation for when this comes out next week. But we've got, in the meantime, go and see Fast Furious 9 just to wet your palate for Hobbs and Shaw to come back on the small screen. So there you go. This has been Off Screen, as ever, a blast, talking it through all of the big week's movies for you on the big screen, the small screen, and on DVD and Blu-ray too. And when we come back, we'll have so much more for you too. But for now, I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.